Your coccyx is leaking creative energy through a subtle angular deviation you can correct, like a compass needle tilted just a degree off true north. An imperceptible misalignment at the base of your spine keeps your nervous system in chronic vigilance, asking your muscles to grip the edges of every moment, forcing your breath to stay shallow, your voice to emerge without resonance, and your energy to disperse before it can sustain any intention. The coccyx operates as the seal of your energetic field. When this bone loses its neutral angle, all internal pressure bleeds out and you function with a fraction of the presence you should have, as if a drum were played with a slack skin. 3 micro-adjustments reorient this base in 90 seconds and close the invisible drain that consumes your life force, like tightening a valve until the current hums. When the hidden angle is corrected, the transformation is measurable and felt in clear metrics. Exhalation dropping to the bottom of the abdomen, heat arising in the feet as circulation remembers the ground, tension leaving the lumbar region like mist, and the vocal timbre gaining substance, darkening and rounding like a bell that finally rings true. The seal reconstitutes, and your connection to the creative source is re-established through the realignment of the base itself, the way a door sits fully in its frame. Keep watching the video, and you will learn a complete ritual that closes this leak and relinks your intention to the power to manifest what you desire, consistently and without waste. The hidden angle that drains your life energy remains imperceptible because it operates through microscopic compensations you were never taught to feel, tiny pivots and counterbalances that vanish beneath habit. The base of your spine houses a point of energetic regulation that determines whether internal pressure is held like water in a well or quietly wicks away through invisible seams. When this point loses its natural orientation, a continuous leak sets in, consuming your vitality before it can ascend into your intentions, tint your words, or inhabit your actions. You will receive a precise diagnostic system based on 3 bodily indicators that instantly reveal when the drainage is active: the capacity to sustain a prolonged exhalation without strain, the distribution of temperature in the lower limbs as warmth finds or abandons the feet, and the resonant quality of vocal emission in lower registers that either bloom or collapse. These markers function as an internal scanner, a live feed from the ground of your being, detecting in real time when your energy is being hijacked by a misaligned base. Restoration unfolds through 3 sequential micro-adjustments that return the bones to their original angulation, locating the proprioceptive neutral like finding the click point of a lock, correcting micro-rotation until the axis runs true, and sealing through directed vibratory stimulation that fuses the alignment. The complete ritual takes 90 seconds of lucid application, and each movement will be demonstrated with millimetric precision so you can employ it at once. Bodily transformation confirms effectiveness in the moment, breath deepening, heat redistributing, timbre thickening, as the structure reorganizes during the act itself. The origin of this misalignment traces back to compensatory patterns formed over years of unconscious adaptation to accumulated physical and emotional tensions, the way a tree leans after seasons of wind. Micro-misalignments at the base of the body create cascading effects that propagate through the myofascial chains, forcing distant muscles to compensate for instabilities that should be resolved in the pelvis, a scaffolding tilted at its foundation. Stephen Porges demonstrated through polyvagal theory how ascending information from the pelvic region travels via the vagus nerve to the brainstem, determining whether the entire nervous system operates in safety or defense mode, like a sentinel choosing between open gates or drawn bridges. When the pelvis sends signals of structural instability, the vagus interprets this as threat and activates defensive responses that affect breathing, digestion, and emotional regulation, narrowing the body's options to urgency and brace. Robert Schleip mapped how fascial tensions transmit through continuous connective networks, showing that alterations at the base propagate to the cranium within seconds, a tug on one corner rippling the whole fabric. Hermetic tradition recognizes this phenomenon through the principle solvet coagula, dissolve crystallized patterns to allow reorganization at a higher state, melt and reforge the form. Thomas Myers documented the anatomical continuities connecting coccyx, sacrum, lumbar spine, diaphragm, and cranial base along integrated force transmission lines, a living lattice that shares load and signal. Bessel van der Kolk revealed how traumatic memories crystallize into specific muscular contractions that keep the system in perpetual vigilance, memory becoming posture. Contemporary neuroscience confirms that the pelvis functions as a center of gravity not only physically, but neurologically, sending constant information about structural stability to higher processing centers, a quiet metronome whose beat decides whether the whole organism moves with coherence or with strain. The first sign reveals itself through vocal quality, when you emit sounds in a mid or low register, like a bell that refuses to ring from its base. A dull voice indicates that the column of air finds no proper support at the foundation, forcing emission to occur only through the upper structures of the throat and oral cavity. When the coccyx is misaligned, the pelvic floor musculature cannot offer the grounded hammock needed for the breath to sustain vocalization with density and presence. The timbre comes out flat without body, without the vibration that should resonate in the chest and abdominal cavity, no bloom in the sternum, no sympathetic buzz along the lower ribs. Test now. Release a prolonged ah in a conversational tone and observe whether there is substance in the emission or whether it feels empty, superficial, disconnected from the center of the body, and notice if the jaw tightens or the soft palate collapses instead of opening to resonance. The second sign manifests as the inability to complete integral respiratory cycles. Breath that does not descend indicates the diaphragm is operating in compensation due to perceived instability at the body's base. Exhalation stops before fully emptying the lungs because there is not enough structural trust to allow total relaxation of the primary respiratory muscle. Observe your next exhalation. Does it reach the bottom of the abdomen or stop around the rib cage? When there is integrity at the base, exhalation naturally descends to the pelvis, creating a sense of complete emptying and deep relaxation. A gentle weight settling into the sit bones, the abdomen softening like warm sand, and the pause after the breath arriving by itself rather than being forced. The third sign is located in the lumbosacral region between the last ribs and the sacrum. A tense lumbosacral segment reveals chronic muscular compensation, where muscles that should remain relaxed hold constant contraction to supply for the lack of proper tone at the base. This tension arises because the body attempts to create stability in the lumbar region when it cannot find it in the coccyx and sacrum. The paraspinals, the quadratus lumborum, and the deep pelvic muscles work in overload to compensate for the absence of appropriate structural organization, producing a familiar ache on waking, tenderness beside the sacrum, and the felt need to arch or brace the back just to stand upright, a provisional scaffolding where a true foundation should be. Correction occurs through 3 micro-adjustments that reorient the coccyx without forcing abrupt structural shifts, inviting the base to reorganize by precision rather than force. The first micro-adjustment establishes the support neutral by precisely locating the ischial tuberosities on the contact surface. Sit at the edge of a firm chair and identify the 2 pointed bones at the base of the pelvis. These are your ischial bones. Rock subtly forward and back, then side to side, until you find the point where both touch the surface with equal pressure, without favoring one side or gripping the thighs. Imagine a level settling to center. The skin under each sit bone should feel equally awake. This bilateral balance is fundamental because it informs the nervous system that the base is stable and symmetrical. When the ischia distribute weight unevenly, the coccyx automatically shifts to compensate, creating the misalignment that drains energy. Maintain this position and take 5 breaths, letting the lower abdomen soften as the body registers this new structural organization. The second micro-adjustment applies the microspiral to detect and correct imperceptible rotational asymmetries. From the established neutral, create a minimal intention of rotating the tip of the coccyx to the right, as if turning a fine dial, and hold for 15 seconds. Notice which side offers more resistance. This is the hard side that maintains chronic tension. Keep the jaw ungripped and the shoulders quiet so the signal remains local. Return to center and repeat the movement to the left. The side that moves more easily indicates where there is compensatory laxity. Hold the rotation for 15 seconds on the side opposite the stiffest one to balance tensions, then return to neutral and let the breath settle, allowing the new midline to clarify. The third micro-adjustment executes the ceiling lock through a tiny posterior tilt combined with vagal stimulation. On the exhale, tilt the pelvis 2 to 3 millimeters back, as if tucking the coccyx slightly downward, without flattening the lower back. Simultaneously, place the tongue on the palate and hum a low mmm for 15 seconds, feeling the resonance spread across the palate, down the sternum, and into the pelvis. Keep the gaze soft and the throat open. This combination activates neural pathways that seal the energetic gasket, a subtle click of closure, so the internal pressure consolidates and the base remembers its neutral charge. The restoration of energetic integrity generates unequivocal signs that confirm the closure of the drainage through measurable involuntary reflexes. A spontaneous sigh arises when the vagus nerve registers that structural stability has been restored and the body can finally relax defenses held chronically, like a guard lowering a shield. This sigh is not consciously controlled. It simply happens as an automatic neurological response to the realignment of the base, often accompanied by a softening in the jaw and a gentle drop of the shoulders. A yawn may also emerge during or immediately after the micro-adjustments, signaling that the nervous system is transitioning from a state of vigilance to a state of restoration. Sometimes the eyelids grow heavier, or a small swallow appears on its own, subtle confirmations that ascending information from the pelvis has shifted from instability to structural safety. Changes in peripheral circulation indicate genuine parasympathetic activation through progressive warming of the extremities. Distal heat begins to emerge in the feet, toes, and perineal region when the cardiovascular system receives signals that it can relax defensive vasoconstriction. A faint tingling or pulsing may join the warmth as capillaries reopen. When the base is misaligned, the body maintains reduced circulation in the extremities as part of the protective response. Restoring alignment allows blood flow to return to distal regions, creating a warming sensation you can clearly perceive, sometimes accompanied by a sense of weight settling into the soles. This warming may take from 30 seconds to 2 minutes to fully manifest, unfolding like a slow tide. Alterations in vocal quality reveal proper support of the air column through immediate changes in timbre. A voice half a tone fuller emerges when the realignment of the base allows the diaphragm to operate with appropriate structural support. The difference is perceptible instantly. Release an ah again, and notice how the timbre now carries density, presence, and resonance that did not exist before, with vibration that gathers in the chest and lower ribs rather than staying trapped in the throat. Words land with more contour and ease, a clear sign that energy is no longer leaking through the base and can sustain emission with structural integrity. Tamsin had worked as a body therapist for 15 years when at 52 she discovered that her own body was betraying her ability to sustain presence during sessions. In her appointments, she felt an inexplicable fatigue that did not match the physical effort involved, as if something inside her were constantly draining her energy before it even reached her hands, a quiet leak beneath the floorboards. Her voice came out dull when she needed to give instructions. Her breath never completed integral cycles, and her lower back held chronic tension that no technique could dissolve, a low hum of strain she had learned to ignore. It was during a break between clients that she noticed the pattern. Sitting on the edge of the treatment table, she realized she was distributing weight unevenly on the ischia, always favoring the right side, as though one sit bone were hiding. Intrigued, she applied the 3 micro-adjustments she had recently learned. First, she found the neutral where both ischia touched the surface with equal pressure, letting the pelvis level like a bubble in a spirit gauge. Then she detected that the left side of the coccyx was stiffer and held a gentle rotation to the right for 15 seconds, keeping her jaw soft and gaze unfixed. Finally, she executed the minimal posterior tilt while vocalizing a low tongue to palate, breath steady. The transformation was immediate and measurable. A deep sigh surfaced on its own. Warmth began circulating through her feet like a slow tide, and when she tested her voice, the timbre came out with a density she hadn't felt in years, gathering in the chest instead of the throat. In the following sessions, her presence sustained itself effortlessly. Her hands carried more sensitivity, and clients commented on a different quality in the energy she transmitted. Steadier, clearer, somehow more complete. Tamsin had discovered that the key to sustaining therapeutic energy was literally at the base of her own body, a small correction that restored the whole field. Your body will initially resist when you attempt to modify compensatory patterns it has maintained for years or decades. This resistance is not stubbornness. It is defensive intelligence preserving structures that once kept you upright when there was no better alternative. The nervous system reads sudden changes as potential threats and recruits protective mechanisms that may harden the very tensions you are trying to release, like a guard doubling down at the first sign of breach. The key lies in a millimetric approach that honors the adaptive wisdom archived in the tissues. Small intentional movements let the body sample the new arrangement without triggering alarms, like turning a dial a single click to hear how the system responds. When you respect the integration time for each micro-adjustment, the nervous system gradually recognizes that this configuration offers more stability than the old scaffold. Your body genuinely wishes to realign. It simply needs proof that the new bridge will hold. Precision in execution signals that this is not coercion, but a conscious reorganization that improves structural integrity. As trust accumulates breath by breath, protective bracing loosens, pathways reroute, and what began as resistance becomes participation in a change the whole system can sustain. Something fundamental reconstitutes itself when energetic integrity returns to your body, as if scattered filings found their magnet and rushed home. Your breath ceases to be merely a biological function and becomes a direct channel between intention and manifestation, a living conduit that carries will into form. Your voice now bears the authority of one who speaks from an integrated center, no longer from compensations that disperse presence into noise. The energetic field around you densifies because there are no longer leaks siphoning life force before it arrives where it needs to. Your prayers gain ballast, your decisions acquire somatic weight, and your projects sprout from genuinely watered soil instead of straining in arid ground. The silent drainage that consumed your creative energy ceases definitively, revealing a reservoir of vitality you had forgotten, a pressure head that builds and sustains action. As the neuroscientist Antonio Damasio said, consciousness begins when the brain acquires the power to tell a story. Your realigned body now tells a story of integrity rather than fragmentation, of support rather than dispersion, a narrative the tissues themselves can trust. Each spontaneous sigh functions as receipt and seal, confirming that you have shifted from compensatory survival to energetic prosperity. The body temple returns to its original function as an alchemical vessel where energy concentrates instead of being lost, where heat gathers in the feet, the exhale sinks to the pelvis, and the voice drops half a tone fuller. You rediscover what it means to inhabit your presence fully, not as concept, but as measurable somatic reality that verifies itself with each breath, each word, each conscious gesture. The hidden angle has been corrected, integrity restored, and your creative energy finally travels its natural course through the structural base of your being, steady and inexhaustible. If this video resonated with you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. It helps this ancestral somatic knowledge reach the people who have been quietly searching for it. I'm eager to hear how you perceive the effects of the micro-adjustments in your own body, the size, the warmth, the fuller voice. Write in the comments, "I correct the angle of my coccyx and reconnect to the creative source." This affirmation seals your intention to stop the invisible leak that consumes your life energy and invites your system to remember its alignment. Share this video with someone whose energy seems silently hijacked, the friend who is always tired, the healer who has forgotten her own base, the artist whose breath won't descend. And don't stop here. Click on the screen and dive into another transformative video on the channel. Each embodied insight brings you closer to the integrity you were born to sustain, one precise breath at a time. Remember, when you realign the base of your body temple, your whole presence reorganizes and your life force no longer disperses. It gathers, holds, and finally sustains your true manifestations.